Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you on Friday. It's the end of the week. Arsenal won a game last night and we have Premier League returning this weekend. So plenty to feel good about this morning, even if the weather, certainly here in England, is miserable anyway. But can't ask for it all, can you? But last night, Arsenal certainly helped lift the mood slightly with that win in the Europa League, a 6th win from 6 in the group stage. I'm not going to talk about it too much because I spoke about it last night in the video I posted with my player ratings, but I will briefly go over a few talking points from that and what Mikel Arteta had to say, and what was quite an interesting press conference, I have to say. Maybe not from what he said, but how he said it. Anyway, I thought it was quite interesting when Mikel and shed a little bit of light into how he potentially is feeling at the moment with the results going against him in the Premier League. So I'll talk about a couple of talking points from that game, a little bit about Mesut Ozil and his future, and then look ahead to Sunday's massive game against Burnley at the Emirates, looking at team news and predicted 11, that sort of thing. Right, so let's quickly talk about last night and what happened afterwards. Anyway, as I said in the video I did immediately after the game, that we were waiting for Mikel Arteta's press conference. He obviously had that last night and it was fairly interesting. He was a little bit spiky, not too happy, Mikel Arteta. Shut me down a little bit with an answer to a question. Was not really in the mood for talking. It all sort of started, interestingly, from James Benge over at CBS. Asked him, not as many crosses in that performance. Was this more of the way you want to see your team playing in the future? And Mikel just said yes. It was just a very abrupt yes. Didn't go into that a little bit at all. And I was quite interested by it because I wanted to know what he meant by it. Is obviously it was. I think the Europa League performances this season have been in stark contrast to that in the Premier League, which have perhaps been pretty slow-paced and one-dimensional. The Europa League has been completely different. Look, granted, they've been playing against much poorer opposition than you do it in the Premier League, but still, it's been chalk and cheese, really. They've scored 20 goals in the Europa League in 6 games. They've scored 10 in 11 in the Premier League. But it's not just about the amount of goals, it's the way they've been playing in the Europa League as well. The sort of freedom in their attacking sense, players interchanging. And we saw that again last night with Smith Rowe, who I thought was fantastic. And that was what I was interested in and why I asked Mikel. I said, can you just expand on that answer of yes? But he was very odd in his answer. He was just like, well, I'm not going to expand on it because I know where he was going. I think he was talking about James, but I'm not sure. Saying I know where he was going with it. It was almost like he felt the question was aimed as a criticism at him or trying to trip him up, and it was all very odd. And he wouldn't expand on it. He got pretty spiky about it. He then started saying that some of my colleagues were laughing, and obviously looking at a Zoom call. So, but if they were laughing, I think they were laughing at the fact it was all quite an awkward sort of moment and silence. And I just thought it was a little bit of a glimpse into perhaps that Mikel Arteta has feeling a little bit of pressure. He's certainly clearly not been happy with some of the criticism that has come his way in terms of what's been said or what's been written since the North London derby defeat, and all the focus has obviously been on the whole crosses thing that he's been talking about in his last couple of press conferences, saying the maths prove it, if we keep putting those crosses in we'll score goals. And a fair few, myself included, and a fair few other journalists and I have sort of questioned that perhaps, and I know fans have as well, especially been questioning that on social media. And it's clearly rattled him a little bit, I think. I thought it was quite an interesting little glimpse, certainly into the first time that I've felt that perhaps Mikel's really begun to feel the pressure. Because let's be fair to him, he's had very good press since he arrived. I think we've all been fairly supportive of him. I have. The cup win was fantastic, but when you're a manager at a club like Arsenal, if you don't get results, you're going to get criticism. You're going to get people picking up on things they don't agree with and questioning them. And that's what's been happening since the derby defeat. Look, Arsenal are on the worst start to a league season in 39 years. There's no way that he's not going to be questioned and people aren't going to criticise him. And I think he has to take that a little bit, perhaps take it a little bit better. Because I thought it was an odd press conference from him yesterday. I don't think anyone. I certainly wasn't trying to trip him up with my question. I just wanted to know what he meant by his answer, and I wanted him to expand on it a little bit more. That was it. And he clearly was pretty angry about something, and he didn't want to go into exactly what. But like I said, I thought it was a little glimpse into perhaps the first time we've seen Mikel really start to feel the pressure since he's been at Arsenal. In terms of the good performances yesterday, I just wanted to touch a little bit on Emile Smith Rowe and Balogun, who were just great. I thought Smith Rowe was fantastic for the time he was on the pitch. And then Balogun, when he came on for that last half an hour, it was just a brilliant cameo that highlighted everything that's good about him and why Arsenal are so desperate to keep him. But on Smith Rowe, Mikel was asked about him in that press conference, the same one I've been talking about, was asked about Smith Rowe and his impact on the game. He said he hasn't played many games and he's been playing in a position that doesn't suit him perfectly with his qualities, but you can see that every time he is around the ball, something is going to happen. He has a lot of creativity. He's a player who has the quality to receive the ball and do things in areas where there are high value spaces and it gets opened. He's a threat and I'm really happy with his performance. So Emile certainly didn't do his chances of getting himself into the picture for a Premier League appearance any harm at all with that performance. I thought he was very, very good. His movement was great. The way he was in tight spaces, as Mikel says there, was very, very good. Set up El Nenny's goal. Look, it wasn't a brilliant assist or anything. It was more about the strike than anything else for that goal, but it was still in and around that area in midfield where he's making things happen, and that's something Arsenal have lacked massively in the Premier League. We all know that. Really lacking with the creativity, and Smith Rowe has that. He makes things happen. He's never done it in the Premier League, but I think, as I said, he's not done his chances any harm at all with that performance. And I think the more you play like that, the more you've got to hope that you get rewarded with a Premier League, with some Premier League game time. Look, I'm not expecting Smith Rowe to start this weekend. I'd be very, very surprised, but it would be good to see him on the bench, I have to say, especially if Reece Nelson doesn't make it, because Nelson missed out yesterday with a head injury. I'm not sure if he'll be back or not for the Premier League game, and if he's not, it'd be very good to see Smith Rowe at least involved on the substitutes bench, and that will be a little bit of reward for that performance last night. And look, we all know Arsenal's problems at the moment. We know how much they're struggling at that final third, and you can't just keep playing the same players over and over and over again, and that's what Mikel's been doing recently. And to be honest, I'm pretty much expecting him to do the same thing this weekend against Burnley. But at some point, you've got to make changes. You've got to give others a chance. And if you're playing well in the Premier League, in the Europa League, then what else can you do? You've got to do that if you're going to get into the Premier League team. So hopefully we'll see a bit more against Smith Rowe. He was asked if he might play against Burnley, and he just said there's a chance for everybody. So not confirming anything. And I doubt he'll start. I'd be very surprised if Smith Rowe or Balogun, who I'll talk about next, start. But they haven't done their chances any harm whatsoever. They did exactly what we were all hoping for. I gave Smith Rowe the big build-up yesterday, wrote a big piece about him for goals, spoke about him on that pre-match video. So I'm very thankful he delivered and backed up why I and so many people rate him so highly and think he could be, as the season progresses, a little bit of a difference maker for Arsenal at a time when they just don't have many of those players in the squad. It's as simple as that. They're all quite one-dimensional players, certainly in midfield for Arsenal, in attacking midfield anyway. And when you've got someone who's got that ability to make things happen, to get on the ball, to create chances, to score goals that Emile Smith Rowe has, then you've got to give them some opportunities to shine in the Premier League. And hopefully Mikel will do that at some point pretty soon. On Balogun, I mean, look, I've hailed Smith Rowe now. I'm going to do the same about Balogun. What a performance that was. I did speak about it last night in the player ratings video, but half an hour is on the pitch, scored a goal, set up a goal, and just every time you see him, he looks like he's going to be the real deal. There's been lots of comparisons about Nketiah and Balogun. And look, Nketiah is Arsenal's top scorer this season, so he is scoring goals. But I think even now with Eddie, and I like Eddie, I do. I think he's a really talented young striker who's going to go on and have a very good career. But you still look at him now, and I still question whether he will make it at Arsenal in the long term. Is his game, has he got enough of an all-round game rather than just being this penalty box striker? They're the questions that hopefully he's going to answer over the next year or 2 years as he continues to progress with his development. But you look at Balogun now, even though we've only seen him for 60 minutes over the course of 2 games in his Arsenal career. So it's tough. You don't want to get too excited by him, but there are some players that you just look at and think, yeah, you've got something special. And I look at Balogun, I look at his strength, I look at his ability to hold the ball up, which he showed yesterday with that assist for Joe Willott's goal. I look at his finishing quality, which he showed yesterday with that fabulous finish, Thierry Henry-esque. And you just, his all-round game, he just seems to tick all the boxes for someone who could go on and have a very successful career. Now, obviously, it's way too early to predict exactly what he's going to go on and do, but you can only say what you see. And for me, he looks like he has got all the attributes to be one hell of a footballer over here, and hopefully Arsenal need to get his contract sorted. Arteta, speaking about him yesterday, said, yeah, he's done really well. Every minute he's been on the field, he's been superb, and today he looked a threat again. He scored a goal, set up another one, and he looked really lively and mature on the pitch. And he does. He just looks at home on that pitch. Again, you've got to take the opposition into account. Dundalk, that's nothing compared to Premier League opposition, obviously, but it's still senior men's football. Balogun's still very, very young. It was only his second senior appearance. But as soon as he went out on that pitch, he made things happen. He got himself into the game. He wanted the ball. He got on the ball, scored a goal, made an assist, and you just look at him and think, yeah, he is a talent, and Arsenal got to do all they can to keep him. Now, Mikel was asked about that situation. Nothing really new from Mikel in terms of last time we spoke to him about Balogun's contract, which obviously expires at the end of this season. Hasn't yet signed a new one. Those contract talks had been shelved, and it had looked like he was definitely going to go in the summer. Didn't happen, and Arsenal have now reopened those contract talks and are trying to get him tied down to a new long-term deal at the Emirates. Mikel said, we've been having some discussions with the player. He knows what we want to retain him, and we know the length of his contract at the moment is an issue, but we're trying to resolve it in the best possible way. We want him to stay, and he said to me that he wants to stay, so hopefully we can reach an agreement and extend his contract. I think Arsenal, it will be a hammer blow if they lose Balogun now, because he really is beginning to show exactly why he's so highly rated and has been as he's progressed through the academy. And they've got to do all they can to try and keep him, because you'd be a real awful blow to lose him and then see him go on and become a real massive success elsewhere in the Premier League. So lots of talks to be had with Balogun and his agent over the next couple of months. Those talks are ongoing at the moment, but hopefully Arsenal can find a breakthrough and can get him to commit to a new long-term deal, because like I said, it would be a real blow for him to move on. But where we are right now, it doesn't seem like anything is absolutely imminent in terms of that new contract. So plenty of talks still to be had on that one. Right, Burnley on Sunday. What a massive game this is for Arsenal. I was just talking to a colleague of mine earlier, and he was saying that he couldn't work out if it's a good thing or a bad thing to be playing Burnley right now. It's like, obviously, they're not the greatest. They're poor in the league. They've only scored 5 goals this season. They're third from bottom. They've only won 1 game. So in that regard, you look at it and think, Arsenal are at home to Burnley. This should be a game they should absolutely win. But then you also think they're going to be playing against a team who are going to be sitting deep. They're going to have big defenders in the area waiting to soak up any pressure and head out any balls that come in their way. And we've seen what Arsenal have done with crosses in the last couple of games in the Premier League. And they're perfectly set up to really frustrate Arsenal. And remember, there's going to be 2,000 fans in the Emirates on Sunday as well. And will they start to get frustrated the longer it stays 0-0 and the more Arsenal struggle to break down Burnley? So you can sort of look at the game two ways. But I think ultimately you've got to look at it and think, look, this is a massive chance for Arsenal to get themselves back on track in the Premier League and to win a game, which they desperately need to do, and to score some goals, which they desperately need to do. Burnley, so far this season, played 10, won 1, drawn 3, lost 6, scored 5, conceded 18. I mean, you can't really be too fearful about playing them that side. And when you're struggling for form yourself, these are the sort of games that you want to come around and you want to sort of lay down a marker and show that you're beginning to turn things around. So it's a really big opportunity for Arsenal, this one, and hopefully they can get it sorted and they can sort out the form and they can get themselves back on track against a Burnley team who they've got a very good record against in recent years, and certainly Aubameyang has a very good record against in recent years. And I know there's been a little bit of talk about whether Aubameyang will be dropped, should be dropped for this weekend. In fact, I'm going to write a piece about it that I think will go live on Goal on Sunday. The whole, is it time to drop Aubameyang or not? I absolutely think it's not. I think you need Aubameyang in the team, no matter how poor his form is at the moment. I think if it's 0-0 and the ball drops to someone in the penalty area 5 minutes to go, who do you want it to drop to? You want it to drop to Aubameyang, plain and simple. So you want him on the pitch for that. Team news-wise, ahead of that game, obviously no Thomas Partey. We're not exactly sure how long he's going to be out for yet. As far as I understand it, it doesn't look like he's going to need any sort of operation on that thigh injury. It's all a case to rest. I know his rehabilitation has already started, but I don't think you're going to take any risk considering what's happened last time he came back. When you consider he didn't play for over 3 weeks last time, you're probably looking at the same sort of time frame, if not a little bit more this time. So you're looking at January potentially for Thomas Partey to return to Arsenal, which is a shame, especially over the busy festive period. But what you're going to do, you can't take any risks now. You've got to try and make sure you get him back fully fit so that he is firing for the second half of the season. It'd be the worst thing to do would be to rush him back again and him to break down again. So no Partey, no Pepe. The last game of his ban. He'll be back for Southampton in midweek. David Luiz still a doubt, although we understand he is training, so hopefully David Luiz should be okay. Obviously missed the game at Spurs last week. Nelson and Kolasinac both missed the game last night, and they are doubts for the weekend. Should get a proper team news update from Arsenal, I think, tomorrow, which will be go into a little bit more detail about those players who are doubts. In terms of my predicted 11, I've been umming and ahhing about this, and as always, this isn't what I know is going to happen. This is just what I'm predicting. This is me sitting down thinking, who do I think Mikel Arteta will go with? And this is what I'm going to say. I'm going to stick with a back four. I actually think he should go back to a back three because no Thomas Partey. If I was him, I'd go with a back three, strengthen up the defence a little bit, and go with wing backs. But I reckon he's probably going to stick with the back four now. So I'm going to go with Leno in goal, fullback obviously Bellerin and Tierney. I'm going to go with Luiz and Gabriel, but if Luiz doesn't make it because of that fitness issue, then it'll be Holding, obviously. I'm going to stick with Ceballos and Xhaka as a midfield two. El Neni was obviously very good last night, scored his goal, is pushing for a starting spot in the Premier League. If he does it, I imagine it'll be for Ceballos, but I think we'll go with, I'm going to stick with a Ceballos and Xhaka back four, and then up front I'm going to go Ceballos and Xhaka midfield pairing, and then up front I'm going to stick with what we saw against Spurs last weekend as well, which is Willian, Saka, Lacazette and Aubameyang. I know a lot of people will probably be disappointed with that team if that is what it is, and I agree. I think you want to start seeing players kind of rewarded a little bit for decent performances in midweek, like Ainsley Maitland-Niles. Surely he deserves a run at some point soon as well. But I still think that we'll probably, if I was having to put money down on what the team would be, I think it would probably be near enough what I went with there. But we'll have to wait and see. Maybe Mikel will surprise us all and he'll really change things up, and he'll start Smith Rowe, he'll start Balogun, he'll start Nketiah, and he'll really change things up a little bit. But not too sure, to be honest. All right, everyone, thank you for watching. Please do enjoy the rest of your Friday. I will be at the Emirates on Sunday, and I will try before, as I did it against Tottenham game, actually I did a bit of a live broadcast during the warm-ups. I'll try and do that again from the Emirates, and then I'll also do my usual post-match stuff, player ratings and all that. Until then, please do head over to my social media channels for all the latest Arsenal news as it happens. You'll find me on Twitter at Charles Watts. I'm on Facebook as well, and head over to goal.com for all your Arsenal news. Like I said, there will be a big piece on Aubameyang going live before the game on Sunday, so head over to Goal to read that at the weekend. Until then, everyone, enjoy the rest of your day, enjoy your weekend. I'll speak to you soon.